I'm going to give cool points to anybody who can actually read what's up there. Um, it's it's a very interesting English orthography trick that a lot of people on the internet have started to do. It's called leet speak, and it involves using keyboard characters that look like other keyboard characters to write things out. So it says geek culture on the top there. The 9, it looks like a G, that's lowercase g. And they try to do a K by making a pipe character and a less than sign. This is one example of geek culture where people just make things up and adopt it, and it spreads over the internet, or it spreads through communities, word of mouth. The reason we go and try out these different things and invent things like board games, Star Wars, science fiction, medieval fantasy, it's because we're bored. Back in the day, when everybody was a cave person, you'd spend most of your day trying to get food from the savannah. You'd try and hunt down an animal or go around and look for berries, walk miles to find water. When you're done, at the end of the day, you've fed yourself, you fed your family, you're tired. You know, you must have wrestled an animal down to feed your kids, or, you know, if you must have walked many, many miles worrying about finding poison berries or good berries. In the end, you had no time for anything else, and then you went to sleep in the morning. You'd wake up again and leave your cave and have the same lifestyle again. Now we can get food pretty easily. Walk into a restaurant, walk to a fast food place, get your food, you're done. Or you could cook at home. The idea being we have more free time now, and because of that, people want to spend their free time doing something interesting, something thought-provoking, something silly, something completely contrived. And why not? Why shouldn't we, right? We've earned our place in evolution. You know, we've managed to build large cities. We've managed to tame, you know, energy sources. We've done so much. Why don't we? Now we've done all our work, and now it's time to play. I was going to talk about, and we'll take the next slide there, a little about me, because geekiness is not a degree. You don't get a bachelor's degree in geekiness. You can't do a PhD in it. Well, maybe you could, depending on who you talk to. You can't, so I'm not going to come here and say I'm an expert, or, you know, I'm the forerunning authority on ... I'm not going to say that. I come here as an observer and as an avid you know, contributor to the geek culture in this region. So, geek, don't call me one. I'm not a geek. Well, maybe a little geeky. I used to live in Montreal, and I did a computer engineering degree there. And then I got attracted to this region because of how geeky it was. Not that Montreal isn't full of geeks, and I will actually tell you what Montreal does for its geeks. But I came here to work for Research in Motion, and I work on the BlackBerry device user interface. So maybe there's some geek cred there. I moved here over a year ago. I love it here because I have been able to find like-minded geeks around, and they love the fact that I moved in here, so because there's so many activities we can do together and be geeky together. To add to any more geek cred that I may have not already talked about, I am starting a master's degree this fall. But enough about me. Let's talk about geeks. So let's move on. So a lot of words get thrown around. Oh, nerd, or you're a dork, you're a geek. And a lot of people have a lot of value judgment on the word that you use. Some people don't like it when you call them a geek. Some people love it that you call them a geek. Some people don't like it if you don't call them a geek. Some people like to use jock or square or all these silly high school words. We're not talking about words. So how do we define a nerd, a geek, and a dork? Well, do we even care how we define it? The main thread that runs through all these, you know, people that are defined with these labels, or that they have an enthusiasm for very particular things. So I threw a few things that maybe you've heard of. StarCraft is an insane geek kingdom of just people just go on and they pretend that they're generals in a science fiction universe, commanding aliens to attack other aliens, or maybe humans to attack aliens, or whatever race defines your playing style. StarCraft is so famous that it is now considered the national sport of South Korea. The StarCraft, champions in South Korea are treated like celebrities. They walk around, women throw themselves at them. They walk into bars with like a whole entourage. They're millionaires. They get a lot of prize money. They do their matches in these cabins in sports stadiums, where the entire sports stadium, 50,000 people, is full. They put 2 huge Megatrons to show the game. It's a computer game from 1997, and they still play it. Last month, the part 2 of StarCraft came out, the sequel. Needless to say that it's been sold out now. People are waiting for another copy. It's so popular that when it was announced, StarCraft 2 was announced that, 2 or 3 years ago, that we're going to make one, the StarCraft Part 1 hit the top of the bestseller list again, because people were just reminded about how awesome it was. So, Star Wars, I'm not going to tell you about Star Wars. I am a Jedi, so trust me on that. Dungeons and Dragons is also a very widespread thing. Right, nowadays, people like to hide their Dungeons and Dragons habits or their hobbies. The Matrix, people knew that movie a lot. It's what we define as cyberpunk. So there's different genres of geekiness. World of Warcraft is medieval fantasy, where you pretend that you live in this strange world that existed many years ago with strange creatures, and you have magic everywhere. Harry Potter. A lot of people love Harry Potter. That's one example of a geeky thing that just hit mainstream and everybody started loving it. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is one of the highest selling pieces of media the world has ever known. I think it was surpassed by its Part 2, which grossed more than most of the movies that came out that year in the cinemas, just by money, because, well, it takes 15 to 20 bucks to go watch a movie if you're buying popcorn. A computer game would cost you 80 bucks if it's brand new, and it has 50 to 60 hours of gameplay. So the reason geeks choose these kinds of modes of entertainment is the money to fun ratio. It's pretty good if you're geeky. Let's move on to the next slide. And here's some interesting examples of geek culture. So some geeks are pretty eccentric and very interesting. On the left, you see female geeks. Yes, they exist. I will not come up here and tell you that all geeks are male, but it's a bunch of women at a medieval Renaissance fair dressing up as fey creatures, what we would call fey creatures, like fairies, pixies, elves. Well, that's debatable. A lot of people don't think elves are fey creatures. You can see the bewildered-looking young baby over there, surrounded by 4 women dressed like elves and pixies and fairies, and you can imagine what kind of life that child would lead as they grow up. Very, very interesting life. And why not? That child does not have to grow up and be a caveman, right? On the right, you can't really see it, but you can see it's a female. I think it's a female. She's got antennas coming, stuck on her ears. She's got these aviator goggles from the Victorian age on her face, and she's smoking a pipe. That is what we call steampunk, as opposed to cyberpunk. Steampunk being a revisit of Victorian age technology, believing in certain machines such as Charles Babbage's difference engine, which never actually existed. They do this speculative fiction where they think, oh, it did exist, and if it did exist, what kind of world would we have? Or airplanes didn't dominate the aviation industry. They were actually airships, blimps. So then they write these fantastic stories about people running around in blimps, saving the world. A lot of fiction is, in that case, is literature based. There are some steampunk films out there which are cult classics, but the example I'm giving you here is that when it comes to geeks, they get really, really creative. So we'll move on to the next slide. I give my kudos to whoever okayed the Waterloo Park Royal Medieval Fair, which is actually happening next month, so you should all check it out. It's pretty geeky. That's one example of a hobby of a lot of people coming together to make a festival. And that's what we can try to do here a little more. So geek culture thrives when people are able to get together and indulge in common hobbies. So board games, card games, computer games, independent music. I can tell you there's something called the Trepid Arts Collective out here in Waterloo. They've got 2 houses up near Laurier University, and they have independent music shows where they invite people over and you watch a show and get to meet some really cool independent music geeks. People get together to watch art films. We've got the Princess Cinema, that's pretty nice. I don't know why they're playing Twilight, but I guess there are some sorts of geeks who like that as well. But we'll move on. So are these guys geeks? Because we've been defining geeks as people who are very, very enthusiastic about something. That's a very broad definition. Because hobbies are very broad, you know, there's so many kinds of hobbies you could have. Doesn't the definition of a geek broaden? So that's 4 guys watching soccer. Do you think those guys are geeks? Do you want to ask them? No. Okay. So because of that, just the meaning of the word changes. It becomes like something which is taken back, you know. It becomes from something that's a pejorative to something that's, oh, something proud to be, I'm a geek or whatever. But the idea here is that from our definition, which I've been presenting of the word geek, I would say those are sports geeks. They like sports. They're very enthusiastic about it. They'll coach you scores. They'll coach you statistics, which, you know, if you could put them next to a Dungeons & Dragons player who will coach you statistics about a certain mythical monster that he fought using dice and pen and paper. And what's the difference? Same thing, but a different context. Can we move on? Yeah. So geek culture in the Waterloo region, as I said, that was one of the main reasons I moved out here. It's very well entrenched, and it's beginning to have festivals such as the Royal Medieval Fair. Go to it. It's very nice. It's kept alive due to many smart people choosing to live here. Not me, though. I'm not in that group. Because a lot of the people I've been hanging out with came after me. Which I just came here thinking, oh, what am I going to do now? I thought there was a geek culture here. How am I going to meet them? And people come down, you hear about, oh, so-and-so is doing a board game night. Oh, so-and-so is going to do a film night. And you find out. And it's kind of disjointed, if you think about it. And the education and technology sectors, they do, which we have in, you know, as a strong presence, it attracts a lot of intelligent, smart people. Now, I'm not saying that only intelligent, smart people can be geeks, but there's a very good correlation between intelligence and geekiness, and we all know that from our high school days. Geek culture thrives in this area, but privately, and that's my main point of this presentation. Could we make it thrive publicly? So let's move on to the next slide. Livability for geeks. because geeks are people too. And this region was recognized as the world's top intelligent community by the Intelligent Communities Forum. There's a spelling mistake on that slide, I apologize. In 2007. I think we all remember when